You're not going to convince anyone to invest money in Gaza if they believe another war is going to happen in 2 to 3 years. We don't want to let it impact our broader relationship with Colombia. One of the challenges and frustrations in Sudan has been that one side or the other will commit to certain things, and then they won't live up to those commitments. That we're hopeful. Look, at the end of the day, the goal everybody shares is a strong Lebanese government that controls the country and Hezbollah is disarmed. We're not concerned about an escalation with Russia with regards to Venezuela. This fighting, for example, with Thailand and Cambodia did stop.
I think this is a bit of an historic press conference to have a year-end report on a year that undoubtedly had, massive implications across the globe in a wide variety of regions, whether it is Ukraine, Gaza, South America, Central America, Cambodia, and for Secretary of State to spend that amount of time speaking both fluently in English and Spanish. In fact, there was almost more Spanish response and ask questions than English. And to go, he went reporter by reporter. So he never, everybody got a chance to answer their questions. I was impressed with the transparency and the accountability for that. And I think it was important. I think it's important that he did that. Obviously, I'm very interested in his take on South America and Central America and Venezuela. So that was probably, I felt like Ukraine and Gaza, we've been getting a lot of feedback on that. I feel like on Venezuela, there were some questions that I still had that I was wondering about his answers. I thought his talk about the coalition and those countries that are being of real help, like Mexico, El Salvador, he mentioned multiple Central and South American countries that are helping us. He was very smart, as he said, he avoided conversation about regime change and also kind of the question of could they do a land strike? And then, give congressional notification. I think all of that was a lot of new information, and coming from such a high level, it was important information. He reiterated so many times that we do these things in the interest of our own national security. So when he was asked a question about Venezuela, or when he was asked a question about Gaza or Ukraine, he always inserted the sort of national interest piece that was guiding these decisions. And so in that way, and then also, as he said, the idea of sort of being a disruptor on the international stage when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to, how we interact, how we work with our allies, how we approach these conflicts. I think there was sort of that also, not just that there's a new sheriff in town, but that we are approaching these, the ways we've been doing this have not been effective, have not been bringing about peace, and we are taking a very different tact. He did not directly contradict the president. He said that we're going to start with these type of weapons. He very specifically said he listed some very large weapons that, these are going to have to go, and that's where we will start. So he left that as sort of the beginning, and so I think that he left a little wiggle room there. And then he talked about how, always a guiding principle will be if Israel feels threatened, we will not have peace. And that is, so that's a non-starter. Israel must never feel threatened. And so those two pieces were kind of his guiding pieces, while not really saying we're going to get every single weapon, every small arms possible, which, for someone who has to implement the policy is probably the proper response.